Today we'll be speaking about, does the United States of America owe its independence to Chanukah? Now what's the message of Chanukah? What's the message of Chanukah? God waits for us to make the first move. The nest of the oil, the military victory, took place only after the Maccabees began the war against all odds. God will only do his part if and when we do ours. So God waited for the Maccabees to make the first move. And the miracle of the oil and the military victory, only after the Maccabees began the revolt, only then did Hashem help. Hashem only helps those who help themselves. Hashem's help is in direct proportion to our efforts. That's the miracle of Chanukah. Shall I repeat the Rachmiel? Hashem's help is in direct proportion to our efforts. Only when you do your best, only then will God do the rest. Now the Maccabees, never have so many owed so much to so few. Who said that? Before Winston Churchill. I think it was the Maccabees. Never have so many Jewish people owed so much to so few. A handful of, how many were they? Against the mighty Greek Empire. Now what do I mean that does America owe its independence to Chanukah? This is from the Jewish press. You can Google it. On Friday, December 2016, at the Chanukah party, President Obama said, again, Friday, Jerusalem Post Friday edition, December 16th, 2016. What?
You said Jerusalem Post?
No, I said Jerusalem Post. Jerusalem Post on Friday, December 16, 2016. 2016. That's 2 years ago. And Obama was still in the White House and he made a Chanukah party. He said, and I quote, this is Obama speaking, "The spirit of Chanukah inspired America's founders 240 years ago. George Washington himself," I'm quoting Obama, "George Washington himself was inspired by the Chanukah lights after seeing a Jewish soldier of the Continental Army light a menorah, Chanukah menorah, in the snow of Valley Forge. And it gave Washington courage to fight on against all odds like the Maccabees." This is President Obama. That's pretty amazing, right? Mm-hmm. It's not fake news. This is not just Obama. This is this documented. That he was ready to throw in the towel. Washington was. He had no money. He had no arms, no warm clothes. And he's walking through the tents there, and he saw this little light in the tent, and he asked the soldier what's going on. The soldier told him that he's Jewish, and he's commemorating Chanukah, the victory of the small little band of Maccabees against the mighty Greek Empire. So this gave Washington courage to what? To fight on against all odds. Incredible how God works in mysterious ways. It says by the menorah in the Mishkan, katit lamor, crushed to give light. The menorah in the Mishkan, how did you get the light? Katit lamor. What does katit mean? Crushed. In order to get the pure olive oil out, you have to what? You have to crush the olive. So the olive is not being punished. The Jewish people are like the precious olive. God squeezes us that we should shine. You can't get the light unless what? You get squeezed, right? Remember that song, "We all shine on," right? Right? I've seen the light. I've seen the light, right? Now, you take a look at your sheets now. Chanukah will prove that the secular state of Israel is a mitzvah. How will Chanukah prove that the secular state of Israel is actually a mitzvah? If you look at your sheets, this is a pasuk in Pashas Yitro. God says, "Now therefore, if you listen to my voice," the first source, "and keep my covenant, you shall be my unique treasure from among all peoples. For all the earth is mine. You shall be, for my purpose, a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words which shall speak to the children of Israel." Hashem is telling Moshe Rabbeinu by Kabbalah Satorah, God says, "You will be to me Mamlechet Kohanim, the Go Kadosh." What does Mamlechet Kohanim mean? V'go kadosh. A holy nation. Mamlechas Kohanim v'go kadosh. Now let's analyze that text. Mamlechas Kohanim is in the plural, right? Malka, it's in the plural. You have a paper? Mamlechas Kohanim is in the plural. The Goy Kadosh, it's singular. Why? Mamlechas Kohanim, who are the Kohanim? They're the men, right? The men are Kohanim. So men need a minion. They need a minion in order to get to Shekhinah. So therefore, Mamlechas Kohanim, Kohanim are men, speaking to men. It's in the plural. Because the men, in order to get to Shekhinah, they need what? A minion. Goy Kadosh, is that? Singular. Goy Kadosh is singular. Because women get Kedusha without a minion. When you sit in the text, Mamlechas Kohanim is in the plural, because that's speaking to men. Men are Kohanim. So they, to get to Kedusha, they need a minion. It's a plural. Goy Kadosh, you have it, Billah, Goy Kadosh is in the singular. Because women, they get Kedusha, they get to Shekhinah, even if they're only what? One. Isn't that amazing? That's pretty amazing. So, what is the Torah telling me over here? This is before Matan Torah, right? A precondition for Matan Torah is to establish a Jewish melucha. How do you say that in English? A Jewish kingdom, a Jewish government. Mamlechas Kohanim. The Torah is not given yet. But God is stating, what's a precondition to get the Torah? We must establish a Jewish state or a Jewish kingdom, which today is a Jewish state, right? So it looks like that what? That the roadmap to Geula, first you have to have a Jewish state. And then when you have a Jewish state, then you can get the Torah, and then you can progress to what? To the final redemption. Now the question is, the Maccabees made this great miracle, right? They purified the temple, and they reinstituted the avodah, not just the menorah. The entire temple service was suspended. So everything was hunky-dory. Why didn't Mashiach come after the Nes Chanukah? Chava. This great miracle, the few against what? The weak against the mighty, and all these great miracles. So why didn't Mashiach come after Nes Chanukah? You hear the question? So Chabad say because the Rebbe was not born yet. But really, it's something, Daniel, to think about. Why Mashiach didn't come? We'll see soon why he didn't come. He could have come. Look at number 3. See the Maimonides, Laws of Chanukah? The source number 3. Now it's very strange that the Rambam, when he gives you a mitzvah, he never gives you the background, how the mitzvah developed. But the exception is what? Chanukah. Here he gives you the entire historical process, what led to the mitzvah of Chanukah. He doesn't do that by Purim. Look what he says in source number 3, Avram. You have that? The Bayit Sheni, in the second temple, I'm reading source number 3. Kishamolcha Yavan, when Greece was in control here, Gozul Gezerot al Yisrael. They made terrible decrees against Israel, Ubatlu Datam, and they canceled the entire Jewish religion. And they wouldn't allow the Jews to practice their religion. And they stretched forth their hand against Jewish property and against Jewish daughters. They made a terrible decree that every Jewish bride, before she's married, has to submit to the Greek governor. They enter the Beis HaMikdash, and they did terrible things over there. The Timu Taharos, and defiled all the pure vessels. And they oppressed the Jews terribly. Great pressure was put on the Jewish nation. I'm reading source number 3. Until the Kodesh Baruch Hu, the God of our fathers, helped us. And the children of the Chashmonaim, of the high priest, they were victorious, Marogam, and they killed the enemy, and they saved Israel from their hands. And they set up a king from the Kohanim. Malchus Israel, and kingship returned to Israel. Yoter al Matayim Shana at Chorban Hasheni. The kingship remained with Israel another 200 years until what? The second temple was destroyed. So the Ramban, not the Ramban points out that the reason Mashiach didn't come and why the Maccabees were punished later on, because they went against halacha. There's a pasuk in Parshas Vayechi, Lo Yosher Shavit Mi Yehuda, that the kingship shall never pass out from Yehuda. Were the Kahanim from Shevet Yehuda, Avram? Kahanim were from Shevet what? Levi, right? So, says the Ramban, because even though they were great tzaddikim and a great miracle happened to them, they committed a sin, they should have turned over the kingship to whom? To Yehuda. And if they would have done that, Mashiach would have come, Avram, how many years ago? Since Chanukah? About 2,200 years ago? But no. So the Rambam says, Nenshu Onish Gadol. The great Maccabees suffered a great punishment, that all of them were killed out in the war eventually, because they refused to hand over the kingship to whom? To Yehuda. They would have done that, Mashiach would have come 2,200 years ago. It means no Holocaust, right? So therefore Mashiach didn't come after Nes Chanukah. So they were punished because they prevented Mashiach from coming. And therefore all the Maccabee brothers were killed out in the war. Pretty amazing. So they ruled, and then their children ruled, and they were not so frum. You know, Yanai HaMelech, he persecuted the rabbis, right? And the Maccabee kings, after they were killed out, their children were not Haredi, to say the least, right? So the Rambam goes on, and he says, "V'shegavra Yisrael alavei and v'yibdam." The next paragraph, you see that, Avram? V'chamisha v'esrim Kislev. It was 25th day of Kislev. V'nechlas el heichel. They entered the sanctuary. V'lemotzu shem and Torah lepach echad. They only found one pitcher of oil. V'lohoyu boil hadik el yom echad bavad. And it was only enough to what? To light one day. V'dik men and eres hamracha shmona yomim. Avram, why 8 days a week? Until they were able to squeeze fresh olive oil. Why did it take 8 days to squeeze fresh olive oil? It doesn't take that long. But you have to remember that the Kahanim were all involved in battle. And if you're involved in battle, if you kill, you become Tomei Mace. How long is Tomei Mace, Cecil? 7 days. So any oil they would have squeezed before the 8th day would become defiled.
7 days?
Tomei Mace is 7 days. So all the Kahanim were fighters, they were warriors, and therefore they were all Tomei Mace, all of them. And any oil they would have squeezed before day number 8, Masha would become what? Defiled. So Kodesh Baruch Hu had to wait until day number 8 when they were able to get purified with the red cow ashes, go to the mikveh, and only on day number 8 were they able to squeeze what? Fresh olive oil without contaminating it, and therefore the miracle took what? 8 days. Before that, any oil they would have touched would have become tamei. So we say in the Alanissim, Giborim biyad chaloshim, the Rabbim biyad miyatim. The mighty in the hands of the weak, and the many in the hands of what? Of the few. This is exactly what took place in 1948. In 1948, I was privileged to be friends with a Akiva Besser, the Chayim Lavrocha, that fought in that war. He says the miracles in 48 you wouldn't believe was bigger than Chanukah. He was an eyewitness there.
Were you born then?
What?
Were you born then?
No, I wasn't born then, no. I was born in 1950, but he, my friend, an older gentleman, he passed away, but he fought in the war of 48. And he says the miracles, mamish the Chanukah miracles. They came off the boat from the concentration camp. Survivors of the Holocaust, they gave them a rifle from World War I, didn't know which end is up. And they had no artillery, so they used sewer pipes to make believe they have artillery. So from afar, when the Jordan tanks were coming, they see these huge sewer pipes on the hill. It looked like what? Cannons. And the Jordanian tanks turned around. And they had no bombers. They had these Piper Cubs, very few bombs, but they dropped seltzer bottles, because a seltzer bottle whistles on the way down. It's just amazing the miracles that took place, bigger even than Chanukah. And Rav Soloveitchik says also that, well, he wasn't there, but this Akiva Besser, the Kohen of Racha, my friend, was there. And he can testify that the nest of the 48 war was an even bigger nest than what? Giborim Yad Chaloshim Rabim Yad Miatim. So therefore we say, in the bracha we say, Bayomim Ahaim, Bazman Hazeh. The miracles are still happening. Now later on, the Chashmonaim became Hellenized. The children of Chashmonaim persecuted the Chachamim. They became Hellenized, and yet we continue to say Hallel and I thank Hashem for the miracle. Why is that? The temple is destroyed, and we still say Hallel. Why do we still say Hallel for on Chanukah when the miracle didn't last, and the Maccabees' children became Hellenized, persecuted the rabbis, and yet we say Hallel and thank Hashem? Why is that? The very fact that we had Jewish sovereignty for over 200 years, even though it didn't last, and even though the kings were not so Haredi, the very fact that we have Jewish sovereignty is a reason to what? To say Hallel. It's a reason to say Hallel. It's pretty amazing. Look at the Rambam continues. You see that? B'nei zeh tiknu chachamim. You see that? Shavuot Hador. B'nei zeh. You have that, Bila? B'nei zeh tiknu chachamim shavuot Hador. So you shmonos shemei Chanukah. Shmonos yomim elu. These 8 days that begin when? From the night of the 25th of Kislev. Yemei simcha v'halel. Yemei simcha v'halel. Despite the fact that the temple has been destroyed and the miracle didn't last, we continue to say Hallel. Why? Why is that? We continue to thank Hashem for each and every step on the long and on the winding road to the final Geula. It's a step. We're on the right road. It's a long and winding road, but each step that brings us close to the final redemption deserves what? A Hallel. And therefore, a Yom Ha'atzmaut deserves a Hallel as well. It's no less miracle than what took place on Chanukah. That's pretty amazing, right?
Can we have a question about the 200 years?
Yes, the Rambam says 200 years, right?
Of what? Of what, sorry?
He says, B'midu melech min ha-kohanim.
This was in Israel or out of Israel?
This is in Israel. When the Maccabees won, they instituted the Jewish monarchy. V'chazru malchus liYisrael yetel 200 shana ad chorban hasheni.
Do you understand? No,
What?
He doesn't understand Hebrew.
The kingship returned to Israel for another 200 years until the destruction of the Second Temple. When did the Chanukah miracle take place? In the middle of Bayis Sheni. Bayis Sheni, Avram stood for how many years? 420. So if the temple continued after the next Chanukah, another 200 years, that means the miracle of Chanukah took place smack dab in the middle of what? Of the Second Temple. Right? Kingship returned.
The Rambam seems to really be making an effort to give them credit.
To give them credit.
When he says, V'hoshiu Yisrael miyadam.
Right. And yet, the Ramban says, right,
making an effort to give them credit.
Right, and the Ramban says that they nensha onish gadol because they have no right to keep the malchus. They should have returned it to whom?
Where's that Ramban in Chumash?
That's the Ramban in Chumash and Parshas Vayechi. Rabbi Eben said, if you look in Parshas Vayechi on the pasuk La Yosa Shevet MeYehuda, that the rulership will never leave what? Yehuda, says the Ramban, because the Maccabees violated this decree. Therefore, they were punished, and all the Maccabees brothers were killed out. Because they didn't give back the kingship to Yehuda. If they would have done that, Mashiach would have been here over 2,000 years ago. And yet we say Hallel anyway. The very fact that Jewish sovereignty was restored to Israel, that alone deserves what, Larry? Hallel. How could you not say Hallel on Yom Ha'atzmaut?
Wait,
Huh?
I have another question on
Yes.
the Maccabees. If the Maccabees are not from Shevet Yehuda,
The Maccabees come from
what Shevet?
Levi.
So
They're
how did they
Kohanim.
get on to the Kahuna?
So they did a sin.
They did a sin.
They did it. They should have turned over the kingship to Yehuda, as it says in Parshas Vayechi, Lo Yosef Shevet Yehuda. But they refused. It's good to be the king. Who said that? Mel Brooks. It's good to be the king, right? So I didn't want to turn it over. If they would have done that, Abraham, Mashiach would have come right then and there. So they went against the Torah, and yet we say Hallel. Because Jewish sovereignty is so precious, even though it didn't last. Even though it didn't last. So let's read the English of it. See the English there? Until Hashem had mercy on them. I think it's in English, you know? And saved them through the agency of the Chashmonoim, a priestly family, who overcame and destroyed the enemy and brought about a great salvation for the Jewish people. And as a result of which Jewish independence and sovereignty returned for over 200 years until the destruction of Bai Sheni. The question is, why is the Rambam giving me the historical background? Chava never does that by any other mitzvah. His book is a legal code, strictly law and mitzvah. He never gives you the historical background, how the mitzvah developed. Manishtana Chanukah, Mishara mitzvah. The Rambam goes into what? Such great historical what? Background. Shalom, why?
I know why.
Why?
Because when Mashiach comes, there's only 2 times we're going to celebrate, and that's Purim and Hanukkah.
No, but why does he have to? Purim, he doesn't give you any historical background. Purim, he just gives you the mitzvah.
Well, that's because there's no Kitvei HaKodesh.
That's what I'm saying.
Beautiful. So Rabbi Abramson said, because Chanukah, there's no scriptural book. And there's no tractate even. Purim has Megillat Esther. And it has Masechta Megillah. So the Rambam doesn't have to give you any historical background because you have Tanakh and you have Talmud. Chanukah, for some reason, has no Tanakh. And there's nothing in the Talmud, barely mentioned in Shabbos, page 23, a couple of lines. So it's the great mystery. So therefore, the Rambam has to fill in what? The gaps. Therefore, he has to give you the historical background because there is no Tanakh on it, and there is no Talmud on it, no Mishnah on it. There's no Masechta Chanukah, unlike Masechta Megillah and Megillat Esther. Chanukah is like totally what? Like a Watergate. It's covered up. There's nothing there. There's no Mishnah even that deals with Chanukah. There's a passage in the Gemara and Shabbos, but Chanukah gets short shrift in the Talmud, and there is no Tanakh, so the Rambam was forced to what?
To tell the story.
To give you the historical background. The question is, why is Chanukah given short shrift? Yes?
Because of what the Maccabim did.
Because,
Because of what the Maccabim did.
Because is what, so Sam Sprecher says that what? That Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi was upset with the Maccabees because they stole the kingship from his family. Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi comes from Shevet. And so therefore he kept them out of the Mishnah. So therefore he kept them out of the Mishnah. There's no Mishnah about Chanukah, let alone a tractate. It sounds like he's vindictive against them. Rav Soloveitchik didn't like that. He didn't like that reason.
He who writes the book writes the story.
What? So Yehuda HaNasi kept them out of the Mishnah because they kept the kingship away from his family. He comes from Shevet Yehuda. It sounds like revenge. So therefore Rav Soloveitchik didn't like that teretz. He gives a completely different teretz. Chavi, you sitting down for what he says? There's a Gemara in Gittin, page 60, that you're not allowed to write down the oral Torah. The oral Torah must remain oral. Tractate Gittin, page 60. It says, oral Torah must remain oral. But Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi saw that the Jewish people were forgetting the oral Torah, so he had no choice. He wrote it down. So the whole heta to write down the oral Torah, said Rav Soloveitchik, is because what? People were forgetting it. But the Rambam says, Chanukah mitzvah chaviva ad ma'od. It's the most precious mitzvah. Everybody celebrates Chanukah. Even those people that don't celebrate any other, all Jews celebrate Chanukah. It's a mitzvah chaviva ad ma'od. And in Rebbe's time, when he wrote the Mishnah, everybody knew Chanukah. So, you know why he didn't write it down, Zisel? He had no heta to write it down. Here, Rav Soloveitchik's ingenious. The whole heta to write down the Mishnah because the Yidden were forgetting. Verstop the cup. But Chanukah mitzvah chaviva ad ma'od. Now Chanukah took place 2,200 years ago, shortly after Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi lived. So when Yehuda HaNasi wrote the Mishnah, Chanukah, David, was still fresh in people's minds. It's a precious mitzvah, the most precious mitzvah of all, says Rambam. So the reason that Rebbe didn't write it down, he had no authority to write it down. Permission, thank you. So says the great Rav Soloveitchik. The permission is when they were forgetting. The laws of Purim, they were forgetting. So Rebbe had the Ein Breira. But the laws of Chanukah were still, people were so popular, Yontiv, and it wasn't that far removed from Rebbe's time. so he had no heter to write it down, and therefore he didn't write it down. That's Rav Soloveitchik's ingenious explanation. Yes?
Maybe they didn't have a candidate to be a king from Yehuda.
What do you mean another candidate?
I mean, nobody was fighting for it. No one said, I want to be the king.
What? It's good to be the king, right? So you picked the most, there's someone from Shevet Yehuda has to be king. That's the halacha. Sanhedrin should have decided to choose an eligible candidate, but a candidate can only come, David, from Yehuda, not from Levi. So even though there were great tzaddikim, says the Ramban in Parshas Vayechi, Aliyos to Shevet Yehuda, Nenshu Onish Gadol, that all of them were killed out because they stole the kingship from Yehuda, and yet we say what? Hallel. Now look at source number 4. You see source number 4?
Yeah. CC's point is that maybe there was nobody alive to take the job.
No, there were plenty of Yehudites alive. We all come from Yehuda. Plenty of Yehudites alive, right? They should have handed over the kingship to Yehuda, and they refused to do that.
How did they do it?
Right?
They won the battle. Because they won the fight.
So they figured, we won, so therefore we're not going to give it up. Right?
Oh.
Right?
Why didn't Hashem send a Nevuah?
There was no Nevi'im anymore at this time, Eyal. That's why the Chashmonaim wrote a Megillah. You know the Chashmonaim wrote a Megillah? Chava. If you look in the back of the Birnbaum Siddur, the Megillat Chashmonaim, they wrote a Megillah. And it starts off exactly like what? V'hibemei Achashverosh, v'hibemei Antiochus. So why was it rejected from the canon? Because there was no more prophecy. When the Maccabees wrote their Megillah, Rabbi Yaakov, prophecy had already ceased. The last book of the canon was what? Megillat Esther. And she had to fight her way in. She had to fight her way in. But the era of prophecy had ceased. This is 200 years. This is 200 years after Esther. At least 200 years after Esther, probably more. This took place 200 years before Chovan Bayis Sheni. Megillat Esther took place at the beginning of what? Bayis Sheni. This is over 200 years later. There was no more prophecy. So therefore, their Megillah, David, could not be what? Accepted into the Jewish canon, even though the Catholic Bible does have it. Okay? So the Maccabees tried to get the book in, but it was rejected. There was no more prophecy. There was no more Nevi'im anymore. So if you take a look at source number 4, it says, Soim Tosam Alecha Melech. You see that? When you come to the land of Israel, you possessor, Soim Tosam Alecha Melech. Source number 4, I think it's on the line, no, Avram?
It is underlined.
Right? Says Rav Kook. It's a positive mitzvah. Soim Tosam Alecha Melech. Rav Kook says when you vote for a prime minister in Israel, you're doing this mitzvah. When you vote in national elections. Now, most of the kings of Israel were not Haredi, to say the least, David. Most of the kings of Israel were wicked. And yet, there's a mitzvah to appoint a king. It doesn't say a Haredi king. Soim Tosam Alecha Melech. The very fact that we have Jewish sovereignty, that's a reason alone to say Hallel, and therefore I don't know how you cannot say Hallel for Yom HaTzmaot. All the great miracles that took place there, we should commemorate it. So we see that the state of Israel is part of the Wat Chava, the long and winding road to the final Geula, to the final redemption. Now, if you take a look, why did God choose to manifest His miracle on the oil? There was no Ketores either. There was no Karbonot. The Greeks had canceled the entire temple service, not just the menorah. There was no incense, there was no Karbonot. Why did God choose to manifest His miracle, dafke with the shemen? Why? And why have a 8-day yontif for a 7-day miracle? 8 days a week. There was enough oil for 1 day, right, Zisel? 1 day was enough oil. It lasted what? 8 days, because any oil they'd squeezed before would become contaminated, because Tumas Meis is 7 days. But they had enough for 1 day. So the miracle was what? 7 days. They had enough for 1 day. 1 plus 7. So how many days was the miracle? 7. So why have an 8-day yontif for a 7-day miracle? Daniel, I know why. It's an extra day to eat donuts. Or an extra day to eat the latkes. Right?
The radio station.
I know why. When you eat that latke, you have heartburn for 8 days. Ooh. So remember the miracle of the 8 days, right? It's Brent. It's Brent, right? What does Shemen mean? Why did God choose to manifest His miracle, Dafke, with Shemen, when all the other temple services were what? Canceled. The answer is that the word Shemen is an acronym. NYPD, FBI. If you want to sum up the Jewish religion in one acronym, it's Shemen. It's Shabbos, Mila, Nida. Shabbos, Mila, Nida. Now the Greeks had outlawed the whole Jewish religion. But which 3 mitzvahs did they zero in and make it a capital punishment, Avram? Shabbos, Mila, and Nida.
Circumcision.
Shabbos, Mila, and Nida. That's the acronym Shemen. The entire Jewish religion, if you want to sum it up, if you can cancel Shabbos, Mila, and Nida, you cancel Judaism. What does Shabbat symbolize? Kedushas Hazman. We have the power to sanctify time. Shabbos teaches that time can be holy. Kill time, waste time. You know, time is our enemy. But when we keep Shabbos, Avram, we rise above time. Mila and Nida is what? Kedushas Haguf. That's Judaism. Through the mitzvah of Mila, the man sanctifies his body. And through the mitzvah of Nida, the lady what? Sanctifies her body. That the sex act can become holy. Through the laws of Mila and Nida, the body becomes as holy as the soul. That's Judaism in one acronym. So therefore, Kadosh Baruch Hu chose to manifest His miracle on Shemen to testify that the Maccabees were fighting not for glory, not for spoils, but it was the first holy war. It was for Shemen. It was for Shabbos, Mila, and Nida. That's what the war was for.
Right.
Then it went wrong. Right? First they started out with noble intentions, but then they refused to give over the Melucha. But therefore, Kadosh Baruch Hu chose to manifest His miracle on Shemen, because that's the whole Jewish religion. And those 3 mitzvahs, the Greeks had what? Made it a capital offense to commit, because if you can cancel those 3, the entire Jewish religion, Chas v'Sholom, goes down the drain. What? That's part of Shabbos. Shabbos is Kedushas Hazman, which includes what? Rosh Chodesh and Yontif.
Right.
Shabbat symbolizes Kedushas Hazman. That includes Rosh Chodesh and Yontif, that we can sanctify time. Right?
Time, place,
The place.
And Mila and Nida, Kedushas Haguf.
Well, what was
Right?
Usually you have a third one, so like, place.
But Shabbos, well, you light the candles in the home, right? Shabbos candles in the home. Now, it's a strange language in the Talmud, Avram. The Chanukah candles have to burn ad shetichle regel min hashuk. Yes? The Chanukah candles have to burn. The Chanukah candles have to burn ad shetichle regel min hashuk. Until the foot stops walking in the marketplace. Just say, until people stop walking in the marketplace. What do you say regel for? It's a strange language. You say, the Talmud knows Hebrew. Until people stop walking in the street, the Chanukah light has to burn Parsume Nisa. Why ashetichle regel min hashuk? What's regel? Regel is from the word hergel. Ooh. What does hergel mean? Regular. The Chanukah light have to burn, Bila, until you get rid of that mindset of regel. There is no hergel. Everything is a ness. The Chanukah candle reminds us that there is no regel, there is no hergel, there is no routine. What looks routine is what? It's all God. That's the message of Chanukah. Get rid of the hergel. Get rid of the routine mindset. It's all miracles. The famous Gemara in Tainus. Chanina Medosa's daughter, she got famished one Friday afternoon, a short Friday. 4 o'clock of Shabbos, she got famished. How do you say famished in English? Instead of pouring oil into the candelabra, she poured what? Vinegar. She said, "Oh, Abba, what did I do? We're going to sit in the dark." No lights in those days. No lights. We're going to sit in dark all Shabbos. I put vinegar in the lachter. How do you say lachter? Instead of oil. Oh, we're going to sit in the dark all Shabbos. Calm down, my daughter. The one who commanded oil to burn can command vinegar to burn. And guess what, Masha? Burn, baby, burn. Until Motzei Shabbos, they made Havdalah on it. Wow. Why does oil burn and vinegar doesn't? It's a ness. I mean, vinegar can burn just like oil. That's the Reherigel mindset. If Hashem wants it, even vinegar can burn. The fact that oil burns and vinegar doesn't, that's also a ness. But we're fachat. How do you say, Larry, fachadet in English? I mean, fachadet. We're used to it. So you got to get rid of the regel min hashuk. You got to get out of that routine mindset. There is no regular. The little Chanukah light calls attention to everything in life, Rachmiel, is what? Is a ness. Wow.
I don't know if I learned Torah, but I know how to speak Yiddish in a week.
Wow, isn't that incredible? Wow. Now, the Rambam tells us that Chanukah mitzvah chaviva ad ma'od. The Rambam does not engage in hyperbola. Thank you. The most precious mitzvah is Chanukah. That's what he says. Avram, why? It ain't even a Torah mitzvah. It ain't even a Torah mitzvah. Why is it the most precious mitzvah? It's not a Torah mitzvah. So there are many explanations. He doesn't say why. If he did, I'd be unemployed. He just says it's the most precious mitzvah of all. But why? There are many reasons. One reason is, how many letters are there in the Ten Commandments? 620. You count them? There's 620 in Parshas Yisro, 620. Says the Balaturim, it's Gematria Keter. Keter, crown, is Gematria 620. There are 613 Torah mitzvahs, and there's 7 rabbinic mitzvahs. So even the rabbinic mitzvah gets a letter in the Ten Commandments. The 620, Gematria Keter. Keter means crown, right? 613 mitzvahs and 7 rabbinic mitzvahs. What are the 7 rabbinic mitzvahs? Netilas Yadayim, to make brachas, to say Hallel, to make an Erev, to light Friday night candles, to light Friday night candles, Purim, and Chanukah is the last. That completes the Keter, Zisel. Achron Chaviv. What's the last of the Keter? Historically, Chanukah. That's the last of the 620 mitzvahs. The Anshek Nes Agdola established Chanukah, the Sanhedrin. That's the last of the 620. Saving the best for last. Therefore, Vini's table, Avram, comes when? The end of the meal, right? Not in the beginning of the meal. So therefore, my humble opinion, many other reasons, but that's why Rambam says the most precious mitzvah of all, because David, it completes the Keter. It's the last of the 620. Wow. Saving the best for last. No. You know, rabbinic mitzvahs again. To make brachas, except benching, that's from the Torah. Hallel, Eruv, Netilas Yadayim, right? Shabbos candles, Purim, and Chanukah. I mean Chanukah. The Goyim can't say, they say Chanukah. They can't say say Hanukkah, what? That's pretty amazing, right? Now, Chanukah, mitzvah chaviv ad ma'od, right? There's 69 other reasons why it's the most precious mitzvah. I can't give you all 69 today, but I'll give you another one, okay? Chanukah is the festival of the oral Torah. Shall I repeat that, Avram Berkowitz? Chanukah is the festival of the oral Torah. And we know the Shalmi Pei at Perik Dalet says of the 2 Torahs, Rav Abelson, which is more beloved to Hashem? Torah Shabbat Peh. Shalmi Pei Perik Dalit says of the two Torahs, the oral Torah is more beloved to Hashem. Doesn't say why, but I'll tell you why. Because the written Torah is written on animal skin. The oral Torah, I've got you under my skin. Ray, the oral Torah is written on my skin. Isn't my skin more precious than what? Than animal skin? I'll prove to you, Avram, that Chanukah is the festival of the oral Torah. The Gemara in Shabbos says they had no pure oil. All the oil that they had was what? Defiled. Right? So it took only on day 8 when they got rid of the Tumas Meis, David, is 7 days. Then you go to the mikveh, get spritzed by the red cow. And only a day number 8 could you squeeze fresh oil. All oil squeezed before Rachmiel will become what? Tomei. Who says you can't use Tomei oil? Nowhere in the written Torah, Larry, nowhere in the written Torah does it say you can't use Tomei oil. Check the book. Only in the oral Torah does it say you can't use what? Tomei oil. So Chanukah is the festival of the Torah Shebal Peh. Because in the written Torah there's nothing wrong, Avram, with defiled oil. Oh. Therefore it's the most precious mitzvah, Yehuda. Because the Torah Shebal Peh is more precious to God than what? Than Torah Sheb'Ksav. Wow. That's why it's mitzvah chaviva ad ma'od. The most precious mitzvah. Of course, there are more reasons why it's the most precious mitzvah. The Bnei Yissaschar, my great-great-grandpa says, Avram, you listening? It ain't over till it's over. You think Hoshana Rabbah was the final judgment, right? But the Bnei Yissaschar says that the final judgment is when? Chanukah. What has Chanukah got to do with Yom Kippur? Please fasten your seatbelts for this. Bnei Yissaschar, my great-grandpa, Zisla, I think he'd be proud of me. It's his idea, I mean, he will be proud of me. His idea, my words. Chava, hear me well, please. He says that the final judgment of Yom Kippur and Shana Rabbah, it ain't over until it's over, is what? Chanukah. And why it's the most precious mitzvah of all? He says as follows. Chanukah is an extension of Yom Kippur. How? I'm glad you asked. What's Yom Kippur all about, Avram? I'm a soul man. Yom Kippur, you stand up and one day a year you say, who am I? I'm not my bodysuit. I'm a godly soul. A godly soul couldn't care less about macaroni and cheese or taking a shower or being lovey-dovey and kissy-kissy. Right? You forget all about that on Yom Kippur because I'm not my body. I ain't got no body. I'm a godly soul. Yom Kippur is all about the soul. Please hear me well. There's a mitzvah to put the Chanukah candle in the window, right? Why not put your matzah in the window? Why don't you put your tefillin in the window? Why don't you put, I don't know, Avram Berkowitz, your shofar in the window? Why do you have to put the Chanukah candle in the window? Manishtana. You don't put your matzah in the window, do you? Says the Bnei Yissaschar. That light is the Ner Hashem Nishmat Adam. The light represents the godly soul. It's the same message of what? Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, you say, I'm a soul man. Right? Therefore, you what? Push the body to a side. The neshama doesn't eat food and drink, etc. He says Chanukah is a similar message. Who thinks about the soul all year? 8 days a year, you focus on that light in the window. What are you advertising? I'm a soul man. The Ner Hashem Nishmat Adam. I'm the light of God. I'm a candle of God. Pasuk in Mishlei. The Ner Hashem Nishmat Adam. The candle of God is what? The human soul. So 8 days a week. 8 days a year. Remember that song? 8 days a week. What? You're focusing. You're advertising. I am not my bodysuit. I'm a godly soul. I'm the light of Hashem. And whatever happens to me, it's all miracles. So the message of Chanukah is similar to what, Avram? Yom Kippur. And therefore, Ben Yisrael says that the judgment of Yom Kippur is held in abeyance? Is held in abeyance. Is that the right word? Until what? So we still have a chance. You're eating your donuts and your latkes and you're getting kapara. It's better than Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, Ray, you can't have latkes and donuts. Chanukah, you're having latkes and donuts and you're getting kapara if you utilize it properly, Malka. If you focus on the Ner Hashem Nishmas Adam, I am God's candle. I am God's light. I'm God's partner. I'm a Tselem Elohim. I'm a Chedek Elohai Mimal. You have to focus on that 8 days. And it's amazing that Chanukah, all of us, Avram, become virtual Kohanim. We're lighting the menorah in our home. For 8 days, David, our home becomes a make-believe what? Beis Hamikdash. And we become virtual Kohanim, lighting the menorah, the light of God, advertising that.
Why is it in the window?
To advertise, because can you see the soul? No, the soul is covered up. So that light, everybody, hey, focus. See that light in the window? That's my hidden godly light. You can't see it, but it's there. So you put the candle in the window to remind us that what? That we are God's light, even though it's covered up. We're wearing a bodysuit.
It's the Kohen Gadol who's lit the candle.
No, any Kohen can light the menorah. Any Kohen can light the menorah. It doesn't have to be the Kohen Gadol. You know that, Avraham? Any Kohen can light the menorah. But on Chanukah, we all become, David, virtual Kohanim. And our living room, Zishla, becomes what? A make-believe Mishkan. Isn't that incredible? Why it's the most precious mitzvah of all? Yes.
Isn't that a special day also for certain fields?
For certain what?
To say certain prayers, certain things you ask HaKadosh Baruch.
Right. There's certain tilims that you say, right? You say full Hallel all 8 days. Rabbi, you're going to like this one. Purim, you don't say Hallel, all right? What am I, chopped liver? Purim has a Tanakh and has a whole tractate, and you don't say Hallel. But you don't say Hallel, what am I, chopped liver? Chanukah ain't got no tractate, ain't got no Mishnah, ain't got no Tanakh, and yet you say full Hallel, Avraham, what?
Every day.
What's going on? Please hear me well. Another reason, I told you I'd give you 67 other reasons why Rambam says Chanukah is the most precious mitzvah. It's the only holiday that took place in Pisgat Zev. I mean in Eretz Yisrael. Ray. All the other holidays, where did they take place? Either in Egypt or in Babylon, Long Island.
Or in the Midbar.
Giving of the Torah, where did that take place?
In the
The Midbar. The only holiday, Zisel, please think about it. The only holiday that took place in Eretz Yisrael is Chanukah. Therefore, it's the most precious mitzvah. And therefore, you say full Hallel with a bracha 8 days. Where did Pesach take place? In the Midbar, Mitzrayim, right? And Shavuos in the Midbar, Sukkot in the Midbar, right? Purim in Babylon, Persia. Chanukah took place here. Therefore, it's the most precious mitzvah, says Rambam. And therefore, it deserves full Hallel for 8 days, Daniel. That's pretty amazing. Mitzvah chaviva ad ma'od. The Rambam doesn't mince any words. Mitzvah chaviva ad ma'od, he says. Now, he says you're not allowed to spend more than 20% of your income on any positive mitzvah. You know that? There's halacha like that. That if any mitzvah is going to set you back more than 20%, you're not allowed to spend it. If your tefillin or sukkah or lulav or esrog or tefillin will set you back more than 20%, you're not allowed to spend that money. Chanukah, he says you have to sell even your coat off your back to buy money for Chanukah candles. It's bizarre. It's not even Avram Berkowitz. It's not even a Torah mitzvah. So Torah mitzvah, you're not allowed to spend more than 20% of your income. Yet Chanukah, says Rambam, it's a rabbinic mitzvah, and you have to sell the shirt off your back, chas v'sholom, if you ain't got, in order to what? To buy Chanukah candles. Why? I just told you why, Abraham. Because Chanukah, you advertising who I really am. That I'm a godly soul. I'm the light of God. And the light of God cannot be extinguished despite Hitler and Haman and Abu Mamzer. The light of God can never be extinguished against all odds. We all shine on, despite the Hitlers and the Arafats and Abu Mamzers. That miracle deserves, Avram, selling the shirt off your back. The miracle of the light of God that shines in every Jew, which can never be distinguished despite the Holocaust. And we're shining on. That's worth selling the shirt off your back. You had a question, buddy? Banish had a question. I'm all ears.
Shabbos Hanukkah.
Take out 3 Torahs. Rosh Chodesh, Shabbos Hanukkah, right?
Money to buy candles for one or the other. Which one do you have?
Oh, Banish asked the bomb kasha. We just said, thank you, that Hanukkah is such a precious mitzvah, you have to sell the shirt off your back. Yet Rambam says, you only have enough money, it's Friday afternoon, you only have enough money to buy a Chanukah candle or a Shabbos candle. Which has Kadima? Shabbos. Who said that? Bueno. Why? I just told you Chanukah is the most precious mitzvah of all.
Shalom bayis.
Hear what the Rabbi Abraham said? Shalom bayis trumps all. Trumps all. The most precious mitzvah in the world, Avram. But Shalom bayis, Friday night, candle night. Where did Goyim get a candlelight dinner from? David, I'm not making this up. A candlelight dinner. I'm in the mood for love. Simply because you're near me, says the Rambam. The Friday night candle is supposed to be a romantic, lovey-dovey dinner. I'm in the mood for love. My Maimonides says that. That's more important than the most precious mitzvah of all. Avram Berkowitz, are you hearing me? After Rambam says that mitzvah chaviv ad ma'od. But the Friday night, you ain't got enough money to buy both, Ray. He says the Friday night candle puts you in the mood for love. And that trumps even the most precious mitzvah. When husband and wife come together, right now, in what? Kedusha v'tahara. And the Friday night candles enhances that romantic candlelight dinner. That's where the Goyim got it from. It's supposed to put you in the mood. Friday night is a great mitzvah to be with your wife. And that's even more important than what? Than Chanukah. Isn't that amazing? Shalom bayis. That's numero uno. Right? And the marital act enhances Shalom bayis. That's right.